Well, hey there. I've been working in the garden, you can probably tell. And we are at the point that I wanted to make sure I brought you along for. We're gonna be planting the banana, and I'm gonna show you where. But before we get to that, I want to just show you a few changes that are happening over in this part of the garden. So it's actually easiest to show you what we're working on here from up here on the deck. So this part of the garden was created in 2010 or 2011 after we had done a big house renovation. So the whole yard was a big mess from all the machinery and everything. So I'll have to look back on the blog to see if I have pictures of what this area looked like before we did anything. But there wasn't much here. It was just kind of bad grass. So at the time I created another oval. You guys know me and my ovals, right? So what I did was this part of the grass was essentially an oval, and it extended beyond the path that I built over here. And there was another oval that crossed the path over here, those two little gardens that have the evergreens in them, that sort of intersected into that oval. Well, because I didn't want to close off the ends, you never really got the oval thing, and it didn't look great. So I am constantly redefining bed lines. That's why a cut grass edge works best for me. I don't actually understand how people design gardens with like concrete or permanent edging. I change my mind way too often to have anything permanent. So I'm always tweaking things a little bit. In every case when I've tweaked a bed layout, it is to make the lines bolder. So I have never like flattened a curve. I have always made a curve bolder, more interesting, bigger, more impactful. And that's what we're doing here. So I am turning that oval into a circle. By the way, it's very hard to view this from actually anywhere but once you're standing right in it in a wide angle or from above. So I will throw the drone up when we're done here so you can get a much better before and after. Complicating this area back here is that this grass is by no means level. The roots of the giant Norway spruce that we're standing under right now just lift up this entire part of grass. I wish this were totally level grass. It's not ever meant to be back here, but that's okay. So what we're doing here is, I think you can see that we're making a much rounder edge, and I've brought it out to this corner. So this sort of shows where the circle closes. Of course, we need to get a lawnmower through here, and this is going to get extended over here. I just cut out this corner just so you can kind of see where the corner is going to be, and it will essentially wrap around this spruce tree. And I say wrap around the spruce tree just to say that I'm just going to put some mulch on. There's nothing else we can do in that area. Along this little front edge, I should be able to plant some geranium macrorrhizum along this little front edge after I put in some additional like compost or something, because the soil is way too dry underneath this tree for anything else. Beyond that, we're just going to do kind of a nice curve that looks like mulch. It's better than the bare dirt that's there right now, I think. So, and there's nothing else to be done about it. We've already limbed this tree up quite a bit, and it's huge and amazing. So that has created a spot to put the banana. Now I'll talk to you about why we're picking that spot, but first I want to talk about edging because a lot of people have asked me to address that. So I am a huge edging fanatic. So I love a nice crisp edge with a deep trough that goes back in a V. So straight edge along the grass with a V that goes back along the bed. And this is freshly cut and freshly done, so you can see just how nice this looks. So some people have asked me how I do my edging. I love edging. It is one of my favorite jobs in the garden, not because it's particularly fun, but because I think more than anything, it makes the biggest impact out of anything you can do in your garden. So I start with a gas edger. Now this is a Troy-Bilt 4-cycle gas edger that I got years ago for a project I was working with Troy-Bilt on. And I love this thing. In terms of tools I would never hesitate to buy again, this is certainly one of them. So you can get this. This is really meant to edge either like we're doing here, lawns against garden beds, or also along curbs and things like that. So you can do whatever. It's got all kinds of adjustments. You can angle the blade, raise the blade, lower the blade. So I start by cutting my beds Basically, I do this once a year for the most part. In spring, I'll go through and cut my edges on everything using this machine. Now, unfortunately, that machine alone is not enough to do it. You do need to go back in and clean up what you've cut and take out any weeds and any grass that's on the wrong side of that and clean that all up. In the case of something like this where I'm sort of reshaping a bed, there's more sod to deal with than there would usually be. And I've left a little corner here just so you can see how I can do it. But the next tool I use then is one of these. Everybody's seen these before. This is a half moon edger. This is just my only advice when buying one of these is look for one with a sharp blade. You want a blade, I don't know if you can even see it on this. You want a blade that is sharp. You don't want a blade that's just raw metal. You're gonna lose your mind with that. So find something with a really good blade that's sharp and keep it sharp. And I like them with a nice wide T-top on them because you can really get some better leverage then. So I've got a little bit of grass left to go to finish up this part of the circle that I'm doing on this edge. I thought I'd show you how I do this next. So the edge is already cut, so all I have to do is really go through here. I mean, it's not even cutting that I have to do with this, although if you didn't have a gas edger, you could use this without worrying about any sort of needing a gas edger. It would do the trick for sure. It just takes a little bit more muscles, and if you've got a lot of edges, a lot more time. So in this case, I'm going to cut on the back side as well because I've got a big chunk to remove here, but normally I wouldn't have to do that. And then I just cut this in half to make these pieces manageable. I always shake off as much soil as I possibly can when I do this, because soil is precious. It's expensive, and you spend time building it.
The windows closed, the fear and doubt. I stopped and turned, trying to find out. There might be some.
So now, first of all, you can see that I need to extend my little path here a little bit, but you can see how nice and crisp that edge is. And then I have one more tool that I will use throughout the summer on this as well. This is not needed now, but later in summer, I will take this long-handled shears and just cut along the edges of the grass as the grass overgrows it a little bit because you can't get the mower necessarily right there. So this will just clean up those edges. So I really shouldn't have to cut those edges more than once. Maybe again later in the year if you get aggressive growth, but if you cut a really nice edge from the get-go and you've got a really nice deep straight line with a V-back and don't fill that trench up with mulch, then you should have an edge that lasts you most of the summer with just needing to sort of nip off the edges of the grass with something like this guy. So now let's talk about this banana and where it's going to go. I'm revamping this bed in front of the wall a little bit. Some of these things are getting rehomed. I am toying with getting rid of this Johnson's Blue geranium altogether. I just feel like it's just such a floppy mess. It doesn't bloom as well as some other ones, and I have 3 of them here. So they're gonna stay for now, but they might go eventually. I also have a bunch of Nepeta in this bed. I've actually cut it back and moved it back into this corner by the hydrangea just to give us some room here because we're gonna add a little bit of tropical flair over in this corner, and I don't really see that Nepeta and tropical necessarily work that well together. So normally this is something where I would have showed you how I was making this whole bed and then plant the banana, but the banana needs to get in the ground. So we're gonna skip ahead and we'll come back and I'll show you this area when it's all done, which will not be today. But I wanted to show you because you've been following the saga of the banana the whole way. First of all, I'll just tell you that all of this was sod in this corner, so I did remove that. So here's my thought on removing sod or dealing with it in some other way. If I'm going to plant in a bed right away, I want to remove the sod. I have tried various forms of sheet mulching. I don't find it to be super satisfactory, to be honest. That's just me. There are people out there who are absolutely experts at it. I encourage you to try it to see if it works well in your own garden. But if I want to plant that day, the next day, I just feel like it's easier to remove the sod. Now, in this area over here, kind of by the tree here, where we're going to run this edge around over here to complete our circle, I'm doing, I am going to do some sheet mulching over there, as well as adding in some other stuff. And then I will probably plant geranium macrorhizum in there pretty quickly. So I'm doing that over there because I'm not planting like a lot of big stuff. I'm going to be maybe planting a few transplants of geranium macrorhizum, and we're going to call it good. So this area I will sheet mulch. This area I wanted to plant in right away, and actually this corner is new over here, and you can see that not only do I want to plant in it right away, but I did. So we'll revisit everything and I'll show you what's all growing in these areas once this is done. But you can see that I cut out this whole area over here and removed the sod in this area as well. So this is not where I had intended on planting the banana this year. First of all, I knew it wasn't going to go in a pot. Even the really big 36-inch by 36-inch container by the front door is too small to handle this. When I pulled it out last year, there was barely room around the edges to plant other plants in there. So I knew that that wasn't going to work. And as you know, I put the bird of paradise in there instead. So I kind of knew this was destined to go in the ground this year. But my original plan was to put it out in the garden by the road. Interestingly enough, you know, I'm not here, I'm not in my garden during the day other than on weekends. But over the past couple of weeks, I've been coming home at lunch and stuff to deal with the dogs and whatever. So I find myself here during the middle of the day on days of all types of exposures, including really sunny days. And I realized it's not full sun over there. It is the part where I was going to put this kind of farther back is actually not in sun until about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So this area is in sun starting at about 10:30 or 11 in the morning, pretty much the rest of the day. So this is far more sun. The other benefit to putting this here, in addition to the fact that I get to look at it more, is that I can be here. It's much easier to maintain it and give it a lot of water and take care of it over here. And it's also a much less exposed area. I was a little worried about it just falling over there. So this is a better spot all around, I think, for it. And I think as long as we're closing in this garden a little bit to make this feel like an enclosed area, I mean, what better than like a giant tree on the corner of it to do that. So just to update you on the journey of this banana, if you haven't been following along, and I'll link to the videos so you can see them all if you like. This is a banana that I grew in a container last year. It started as I would say maybe a maximum 36-inch tall plant, but I think it was more like 30 inches. And it grew to over 11 feet from the base, not in a pot, to the top of the leaves. It got huge. This is a red Abyssinian banana, Encente something is the botanical name. So I took it out of the pot last year. I stored it in my basement, cut it off, stored it in my basement in cold, dark storage over winter. Brought it out right at the beginning of May or late April, and to see if it was alive. There was a lot of rotten bits on it. We cut off a ton of material on it, and I popped it in this little pot that it's in right now, this nursery pot, just to let it get some roots growing on it, because of course there's like almost no root system on these plants. It immediately started sending up leaves. I've actually cut a few of them off, and it's been hardening off, and it is finally warm enough now to get this outside into the garden. So this year it is going in the ground. I hope it will get just as big as it did last year. I assume it might get even bigger, so we're gonna see, but let's get this thing in the ground. It is extraordinarily heavy right now. It is so much heavier than it was when I pulled it out of the basement. The sheer volume of water that must make up these plants is so amazing, because there's no other reason why this plant should be so much heavier than it was 2 months ago, other than just soaking up and retaining water in these really cool stems and leaves. So I have prepared the soil here with a fair amount of biochar. The soil's pretty good here anyways. It's a little sandy. Always good drainage here, nothing to worry about there. And I am going to add in some insect frass into the hole here. So this is the Organic Mechanics bagged insect frass fertilizer. And the directions they give for are 1 tablespoon per gallon for use as a foliar feed or tea. Steep it for 2 hours, strain, and then apply to the plant. 1 cup per cubic foot of soil medium if you're putting it into a pot, or top dress 1 pound, about 5 cups, per 200 square feet, approximately 10 cups. This is 2 pounds. So this would be a bag for 200 square feet. So I obviously don't need that much. So we're just going to mix it into the soil for this. So I just want to show you the roots that this thing has put on already in, what is this now? 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks. That's how many roots it put on. It's actually going around the pot. They look really healthy. This plant just continues to amaze me.
7 days of eternity, 7 days in another country. Every cell screams, stay right here, and my legs.
All right, so I told you we were going to make this a little tropical corner, or if I didn't, I meant to. So, I mean, sometimes if you're wondering what do you plant with other plants, think about plants that have similar needs and grow in similar places. So I'm putting in 2 dahlias here, Impression Fantastico and Cactus Tamburo, which should play off each other with the color, but also play off the red in the banana. I have coffee cups, Colocasia, overwintered right here. Growing a lot, just not big. I think it'll be happy when it's in the ground. I've got a begonia. No, this is not a begonia. This is a canna. I've got Canova. This is bronze peach. And I've got 2 of these Secretia purple hearts, which I have planted all over the place this year. So it'll just kind of tie things in, but I think it'll be a nice little thing for that corner, just to kind of fill in there. And then I have other annuals I can fill in as sort of ground covers in here, but we're gonna get these guys in the ground right now.
It's the only thing I think about, it is so loud. Every cell screams, get back home. Every day is so long.
Okay, there's everything in the ground so far, so I might go see if I can find some more of those purple hearts. I could probably try to root them as well. They root pretty quickly, and just kind of line this corner, because I think that'd be kind of pretty over here, and it'll go well with what I have planned for the changes in the rest of this bed coming soon, but alas, not today. Okay, so here's the corner. We're gonna take a look at this now so we can compare this to later in summer, when I expect that banana will be twice as big as it is right now. And the dahlias will get fairly tall, which I think will be just fine. Kind of shroud the ugly bottom of that banana a little bit. Let me just go stand behind it so we can get an accurate depiction of, well, line up with something so I can redo this, recreate this in a few months' time. Okay, so here's where we're starting with the banana, with it, you know, just a few inches above my head. We'll see what this looks like in a little bit. Is this little tropical corner weird? Yeah, maybe it is. So is growing a banana in your yard in Wisconsin. So here's all for weird gardens, right? Anyway, I love it. We're gonna see how this goes. Thank you for following along in the saga of the banana. I'm a little bit of a hot mess today, but I didn't want to not bring you along for planting this. And I thought it was a great time to show you how I'm changing the lines of this bed back here. So if you're not already, you're gonna wanna subscribe, because you are gonna wanna watch this thing grow, see what happens this year. Thanks for following along. You guys have a great day in your garden. We'll see you soon. Bye.